Now we're going to do two brief parts to this tip because you might have found your way to this tip about incorrect driver setup for two different reasons. Firstly, it might be the actual setup of the club, and secondly, it might be the way you set up to the ball. So incorrect driver setup could relate to things that you could find out in a custom fitting. Things like shaft length, shaft flex, shaft weight, kick point profile. You could also talk about the loft that the club has, whether it's too lofted or too little loft on the face. You could also talk about whether it has a bias to it in terms of where the weight is positioned in the club. Is it a draw bias or a fade bias or whatever? Now you might go to the local shop and buy the latest, greatest brand new driver because your mate has got that driver, or because your favourite tour pro has got that driver. But then if the shaft isn't suitable for you, the draw or fade bias isn't suitable for you, and the loft on the head isn't suitable for you, I would argue that driver could almost be unplayable for you, even though unfortunately you've spent a fortune on it, you've researched it, you've read about it, you've chosen your favourite tour player, you've copied them, but because the setup of the driver isn't very good for you and your swing, it could almost be completely unplayable. Now the other concept relating to the setup would be actually how I physically stand to the ball. Now I might have worked really hard on setting up to the golf ball in the right way with my irons, my wedges and other clubs in my bag, but the driver setup is quite specific and quite different to other shots. Simply put, we want to help this ball into the air a little bit more because we don't have much loft on the face and we do have a big T-peg. So because of that, we want to stand with our super wide stance. We want to position the ball really close to that lead side, that lead heel, and then we want to have the shaft slightly leaning back from the golf ball. So the hands and arms feel like they're in a straight line, but they're definitely not in front of the ball. And the last thing in that position is I can just put an extra 10% body weight on my trail foot. So here I feel like I'm leaning back from the ball. Now you can see that's desperately quite different from how I might set up, for example, for a pitching wedge. I might be narrow with a pitching wedge, I'd be a lot closer, I'd have the ball in the center, and I'd be leaning onto my left side, shaft leaning forwards. Try that with a driver, it's not going to work. And likewise, try this with a pitching wedge, it's not going to work. So the driver setup can be how I physically stand to the ball to help my driver launch. It can also relate to how the club is actually set up, the club I choose to use, the shaft, the loft, the weights on the head, and that could help. If you improve your driver setup in both areas, you'll definitely improve how you hit that club.